Um, we are so thankful that you're here and welcome. This is the Applied Sensory and Consumer Science Certificate Program Information Session. Thanks for joining us. We want you to know that this program is all about you and this is your session. While we plan to provide an overview of the program and the logistics, we want you to ask as many questions as possible. So please use the Q&A feature and we will get to those questions at the end after we let you know about the logistics of the course and your instructors. My name is Trucy DeWitt and I am your sensory administrator. I am not a subject matter expert, but I can get you through the system and help you find your invoices, your receipts, your grades, and how to get in touch with your instructors. And if a link isn't working, and basically I am there to guide you through all of those things. Here's a look at today's agenda. And today's panel. We have Rebecca Blybaum. She is our instructor for courses 1 and 4. We have Keelan Bradley. He is our alumnus from last year's cycle. And we have Jean-Xavier Guinard. He is our instructor for courses 2 and 3. Each of them will be discussing their courses and their experiences. But right now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a brief history of our program. It began in the year 2000, and it was the brainchild of our beloved instructor, Dr. Howard Shucks. I was blessed with getting to know him a little bit too as I began in this program in 2011. Howard was a very forward-thinking man and on the cusp of innovation. His co-creators of this program are your instructors. Howard wanted accessibility for the working professional from anywhere in the world, and the online version of this program was created. We are thankful to have been able to reach over 25 countries throughout the world in 23 different states in the US. We lost Howard in 2007, but we will continue to serve the sensory and consumer science community with his mission in mind. September begins our 20th cycle. To kick us off, I'd like to know how you learned about the Applied Sensory and Consumer Science Certificate Program. And we're going to do that with a poll. And so we'd like to know, how did you hear about the Applied Sensory and Consumer Science Certificate Program? This helps us find other students and work with you. All right, it looks like we've got about 75% of you voted. We'll give you a couple more seconds. And it looks like we have a pretty close match here. We have a lot of people are from their employers, just internet searches, 22% from an advertisement, and 22% from others. So it looks like we're getting a nice wide range of people from different areas, and we're excited to have that. So. Again, type your questions in the Q&A and we will answer those at the end of the session. All right, we are a two-portal system. We use two separate systems to give you the information you need and to manage your records. The first system is your student account. And this is where you would go when you apply for our program. You would create an account to finish your application, and then that will start your permanent record with us. The next system that we use is the online classroom, which is where all of your course information will be held and is also known as Canvas. There are two ways you can access this. It's through where you found your student account, and also at the separate online link, and each place will get to you where you need to be. But my favorite is the direct link, because if there are any changes in dates or anything, it is reflected there. And sometimes that gets missed when you go through the other link connected to your account. Plan your work and work your plan. I know it sounds like a parent, but this is very sound advice. We recommend 7 to 12 hours per week to meet your deadlines. Each course is 69 days in length, and you'll need a letter grade of C or better in each of the courses to receive your certificate. You also need to have an account balance of 0. Please contact Student Services if you need to help finance your education. It's a wonderful group of people that work with us, and they can lead you to private loans, scholarships. We're working to establish a few of those. They're still in the works, and we don't have anything to offer at this point, but that is something we are definitely working hard towards. And we're also working towards getting this program set up to receive the VA benefits. Please remember that you are required to have a college level statistics course completed prior to the beginning of course 2, which will be course 2 and 3 use the statistics. The prerequisites for each other course is the previous one. So we start with Foundations of Sensory Science. You move to sensory evaluation methods, and then it's consumer testing methods. And the end, the last class, is the application of everything you've learned before. And each course is built upon the other, so they must be taken in sequence. This is where you begin the journey. You complete your online application. You send it to the administrative person, which is me, and then I send it to the advisors, and then we review your applications, and then your acceptance or decline is also noted. We have very few people who are declined. Usually it's because they've applied thinking this sensory program is related to a different what's the word I'm looking for? A different business altogether. Sometimes they think it has to do with sensory integration, which deals with autism, and some people think it just applies to one specific industry. This is the broad one that can be applied to all industries. We have a lot of different global companies that utilize our program for training. Mondelez and Griffith are two of the ones that have the biggest history with us. We want you to know that we understand training is expensive, and this has been a long year with a lot of challenges. I think that's a good way to put the whole COVID experience. It's been a challenge. And we are offering a buy one, get one 10% off if your company is paying for your tuition. This course, we're also going to be using a course reader, and it is going to be given to us by Canella. Each course pack is designed specifically for your class. The course pack includes all reading materials you'll need, and journal articles, essays, case studies, etc. That are referenced and used throughout the class. They will be able to be purchased both in print and digital formats. And we will be given a link, and that link will be given out a week before each course begins. All right, and now we'd like to know a little bit more about you and why you are exploring this program. All right, give you a little bit of time. Tell us a bit about yourself and why you're exploring this program. You're in the industry and you want to expand your knowledge base. You're hoping that training will get a foothold in the industry from a technician to scientist role. You're transitioning into this industry. or you're just here and your company is sending you for the training. One or more might apply, but just pick one. All right. Looks like our winner is that everybody wants to learn more. And that's fantastic because you've definitely come to the right place. You will not regret being part of this program. All right. I'd like to introduce to you Becky Blybaum, Rebecca. She is your instructor for the first course, and she's going to tell us a little bit about it, and we'll go through all the courses. Thanks, Becky.
Yeah, thank you, Trucy, and thanks everyone for being here. And I've been like Trucy said, I'm one of the co-developers of this program. I worked with Howard Schutz when I was a student at Davis, and Rosemarie Pangborn. And along my career, I've always had great mentors and people that love to teach and share their knowledge. And I feel very lucky to be able to pay that forward. I'm definitely a sensory nerd. And when we start this Foundations program, it was really designed to make sure that you understand the complexity of our measuring instrument, that, collecting sensory data is not like collecting data from analytical instruments or, it's not instrumental data. We have a lot of twists and turns. So we spend a lot of time in the Foundations program sharing information about the physiology of the human system and, just the complexity and how things can be, what tricks we can do to change behavior and how the whole sensory function works. It really sets the foundation for everything that we're going to talk about in the other courses. So, we go through, again, just a lot of the physiology of our measuring instrument and sharing a little bit about some of the methods and give you an overview of sensory facilities and, try to lead you right into that next program on course 2. So.
All right. Thanks, Becky.
Welcome.
Next up is Jean Xavier, and he teaches course 2, sensory evaluation methods. He also teaches course 3. So we will let him tell you about those things, and we'll just slide from one into the next.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. It's wonderful that you're joining us and to have the opportunity to talk about something we really love so much to do, which is to teach continuing education for professionals. It's a very different audience from the one I usually teach to on campus in this theater behind me, where we're often joined by our 2 other sensory professors, Professor Hildegard Heyman and now Professor Julien Delarue. So we've had a strong tradition of sensory excellence at UC Davis that started with Rosemarie Pangborn, Maynard Amerin, and Ed Rossler in food science, viticulture and enology, and statistics, respectively. And I was fortunate to do my graduate work, or some of it, with Rosemarie Pangborn, a great relationship, and then was fortunate to move into her faculty position at UC Davis in 1994. So shortly after that, I had the opportunity to get involved with this program through Howard Schutz, and because of a long relationship with what was UC Davis Extension at the time. And so since we've been building and upgrading and doing as much learning as the people who've taken the program have done. This is always a two-way street, and for me it's exciting because I learn quite a bit from you guys as well. So in course 2 and course 3, we really focus on methodology and statistics, or sensometrics. The reason why I say that is because we divide those 2 courses into the 2 main areas of sensory and consumer science, which would be analytical testing, as in sensory evaluation methods, where we use people as instruments to measure sensory properties. And then in the 3rd course, we move into consumer testing, and there we focus on the consumer response to the product or the service. So what do we do in course 2? In course 2, we focus on discrimination testing, and then we move into descriptive analysis, which are really the two main pillars of what we call sensory evaluation methods, where we use train people to monitor sensory properties. And as we do that, we really want to build on the methodology that exists out there and that evolves all the time, which is really one of the exciting pieces about this. And we do our own of methodology development here at Davis, but we really build in this program on the wonderful work that's being done by scholars all around the world. So that's one big piece of the sensory evaluation method course. The other big piece is that we use statistics to analyze the data that we generate. So we start with univariate statistics, and then we move into multivariate statistics. As Trucy said, you need to have some stats background to take this program, but rest assured that we're going to refresh or teach you all the basics that you need, and then the application of the techniques that we're going to introduce. So if you're not very fond of statistics, or if you don't just use statistics every day on your job, don't worry. We're actually going to get you to enjoy doing statistics and to see the value of it and really apply it in everything you do. And so we'll also, if you want to move to the next slide, Trucy, in our consumer testing method, we will follow some of the same principles to really focus on the methodology and then the analysis of the data that is generated. Different kind of data because it comes from consumers, but we use some of the same multivariate techniques to make sense of that data. And then we also like to go beyond sensory and move into things like innovation and product optimization. And some of it's sensory based, but some of it goes beyond that. So we like to dive into those techniques as well. So those are the things that I wanted to mention about those two courses. There is a lot of learning by doing. We have assignments where you design experiments, where you design scorecards, where you analyze data. So very busy sets of assignments. And then there is this wonderful piece of the program, which is the forum, where all our students and we interact, share ideas, ask questions, and also get a lot of the learning done that way.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to course 4, which brings us back to Becky, the applications of everything you've learned.
Yeah, well, and applications, it's sort of how do you put all this stuff together? And, you know, when I got out of Davis, I went and worked for a consulting firm down in Palo Alto called Tragon Corporation, which really was using very close ties with Davis and used all this information. And Howard Schutz came down and consulted with us on a regular basis. And so we decided to create these applications, like how are companies really using these tools? And, you know, considering this is 20 years ago, you know, how are they using these tools? And, you know, it's just the applications have just expanded. I mean, it's been phenomenal to see the growth in the past 20 years or more about this. So we spend a lot of time in applications tying everything that you're learning in courses 1, 2, and 3 together to say, how do you solve common business problems? What are companies willing to fund when it comes to sensory research? And there's a lot of different things. And, you know, we talk about, you know, course 4 is putting it all together. How do you optimize a product, for example? How do you make sure that you're best in class? Or how do you compare relative to the competitive set out there? So we talk about benchmarking products. A lot of companies have ingredient substitution. That's a regular thing. If you're trying to change the formula but not have the consumer notice, then what kinds of tools and techniques do you do to minimize your risks as you launch that? So we talk about, you know, this information really brings together the marketing and the R&D programs and quality, because that all ties together to ensure that you can protect your brand. So we spend a lot of time, you know, how do you talk about your product? How do you describe? What words do you use? Do you have a language to talk about the product? And then, you know, you can collect data on that. New product development, innovation, renovation, all sorts of line extensions, all sorts of things like that. Quality control and shelf life are big issues for companies. and what kinds of new tools and techniques are out there to make sure that you're using these things properly. And I've spent most of my career working for major multinational organizations, and we really want to bring these tools back down to people really, in the trenches, to leadership teams. Look at this information. How do you minimize your risks as you try to move forward? So we give you a lot of different topics that we cover. And I also developed a podcast series with industry experts. And we've got some in course 1 and course 4, but they're really conversations with folks that have been in this field for a long time and how they've seen it grow and develop and really become a key information source for all sorts of investment firms and leadership teams and just companies. So it helps people get decisions quicker and faster with hard data. So we also spend time talking about ad claim substantiation and legal evidence when we do insurance claims or, branded packaging, and you want to make a claim about something. What kind of evidence do you need that will hold up in a court of law? And sensory is really at the heart of that, perceptual data. So I love course 4. I think it's a lot of fun. And, it's almost like a working internship that most of the ideas or the topics that we go through, most people in the program are working in one of those areas and aspects. So I think, again, that discussion forum is fantastic. We definitely learn from you, and you guys learn from us, and it's a fun course. So that's course 4.
All right, thank you. All right, and now you're going to hear from someone who has been through the trenches and graduated and received the certificate. Welcome, Keelan Bradley.
Hello. Hi, how's everybody doing? Yeah, it was, I'd just like to say this is one of the best programs that I had went through for my career. It really does equip you with like hands-on skills, primarily with utilizing and understanding the instruments within sensory science. Not only physical instruments, but the consumer as an instrument. How to analyze data, the statistics course, all of it was very hands-on as they discussed. And that was a really good thing as I navigated further into a career where I started out in coffee. And from there, this program started to build skills that became unilateral within the sensory field. And I started to work more with chocolate, and tea, and wine, and other companies. Actually, in the program, I had actually moved from Los Angeles to Miami into a food safety role, and saw that the things that I was learning while completing the program had continued to move me up within industry and offer more opportunities. I'd say the best parts would be the hands-on learning with the actual statistics programs, the history of sensory science and getting abreast on that and seeing how many areas you can apply this. And, by the time you get to course 4, you have the independent knowledge of how to utilize not only sensory testing, but data analysis in a way that's very, very useful to companies. I originally started in a marketing background, and I had originally graduated with my undergrad in a double major of Bachelor of Science in Business Management and Bachelor of Arts in Marketing. I can definitely say that this program allowed me to apply a scientific approach to producing data that affected marketing decisions in multiple companies that I've worked with.
That is the goal of this program. Thank you, Keelan. I appreciate it.
Thank you all.
All right. So any questions? Now is the time we're going to go ahead and address your question. We'll start with Jody. She says she's a professional chef of 20 years, currently pursuing her bachelor's degree in food science and safety. And after learning about this concentration, she would also like to pursue this certification. Her question is, will she be able to find a position without having any real world experience? It's a good question.
I'll take a stab. Oh. I would just say, Jody, that we are I don't know about finding jobs. I mean, but we use professional chefs because you guys have such great language. I mean, the thing to do is, really be able to describe products and, and articulate them in a way that makes sense to other people. We use chefs in our research and descriptive analysis, actually, because they come to us with great language and they're always practicing and always being able to really describe a product. And that's a special skill. It's a little bit on the other side of, it's like we're using the panel to describe that, but I think there's certainly a lot of room for people that are just passionate about food and really want to keep learning about it and describing it and finding a place where that fits with the consumer.
I'd also say that, like, upon completing the program, you have an extreme competitive advantage within entering the work field. Regardless of real world experience, you have a tacit, this is a very new program. I don't know too many places that have sensory programs, let alone consumer science programs. And exhibiting this skill level allows you to go into any place and apply yourself without previous work experience. When you're using the top of the line programs, I mean, I'm unsure if SAS is still a portion of course 2, Professor, but I know that, yeah, walking out of this program, you're definitely in a position to still be able to garner some value to companies.
Thanks for bringing that up, Kelly. Something we haven't mentioned yet is that the entire program has been revamped, both in terms of contents, but also format and delivery of the instruction. And and it's something we try to do on a continuous basis, but we just went through a major revamp, and this year is the first offering of the new version. Part of that revamp has been to move from SAS to using R for statistical analysis. So we provide tutorials on how to use R, because at first it's a bit daunting, but everybody has gotten on board with R. I think they probably prefer it over SAS, but people can use any statistical package they want to do all the analysis. So if you're used to working with Excel Stat or SPSS or Minitab, you can use all of these to run your analysis. But the tutorials we provide are for R Studio. So there is a question about, can you take just one course? And that's an important question. And the answer is no. You really want to be getting the whole certificate, be exposed to the contents, the foundations, and then the methodologies and the analyses and the applications. And so everybody who's taken that program has taken all 4 courses. What you're able to do is to pause if for some professional or personal reason you can't, after taking the first and second course, move to the 3rd course. You can always pause and then resume the following year and complete your certificate program. And the tuition is the same from all over the world. There is you're not penalized if you're not from the US to take this program. I saw that was another one of the questions.
You're right. You always make the comment that, English isn't your first language, right? And that's what it is for a lot of folks in this program. So, yeah, we like the global nature for sure.
We do. Unfortunately, that also leads to another question. We do not have at this point a discounted rate for those who are outside of the United States. It is the same price for everybody. A few of the questions in here are regarding tuition and how it needs to be paid. Typically, you pay by course, and you're invoiced. Either your company pays for it or you pay for it individually. We can also work out payment plans. You can just reach out to me. We try to be as flexible with how you pay and when you pay as possible. The goal is that you are fully paid by the beginning of course 4, and because you need a 0 balance by the time at the end of course 4, so that you can receive your certificate as well when you have the C or better grade. So again, that all, once you apply and you're approved for the program, then we work on invoicing, and I do that individually with each person depending on their needs. So again, we try to be flexible.
There is a question on the structure of the course, which we haven't really talked too much about, except for mentioning different types of elements. But at the core, at least in the two courses that I teach, have some weekly lessons, which are PowerPoint with voiceover based and transcribed. And then we do have some quizzes every other week that cover 2 lessons, and then we have a final exam, and those are true and multiple choice answers. And we have then the assignments, which usually are the design of particular projects or experiments or the analysis of data sets. We also have interactions on the forum. Sometimes we ask you to post on a particular subject. We have some guest lectures, and some of it is live and some of it is recorded. So one of the great features of the program is that you can do it anytime from anywhere in the world. You work at your own pace. I mean, we try to keep you on a schedule, but we're very flexible because we understand you have busy professional and personal lives. So that's a bit about the format.
And course 1 and course 4 are very similar formats, like what was just explained. And we try to keep it consistent about quizzes after every 2 lessons. And, you know, I love the guest lectures. I think we've got some great folks coming in. And like JX said, it's either live or we do record. And there's a question about software. What software can be used for collecting and analyzing data? There's a lot out there. And what we try to do is make sure that we can network within the course, but also, you know, bring you industry experts that, you know, are topic area experts, especially for software and data collection. So, you know, it's sort of like, what else do you need to know and how can we help bring that in? Because we have a lot of options for just bringing knowledge to you guys.
A question about R is free, so it's open access, and we would provide the information to get what you need there. There's a question about the value of this certificate program for somebody who's a consultant, somebody who works for a company. You know, regardless, there's going to be immense value if you have anything to do with sensory or consumer. Regardless whether you work for a startup company or whether you work for a multinational company. We've had people in the program from all of these types of companies. And so, yeah, it's the answer to many of these questions is all of the above. I think that there was also a question about how does it compare to our academic program here on campus. This is a continuing and a professional and continuing education program. So for professionals, for people who want to acquire new skills or brush up on their skills as they move into this area. And a lot of what we teach is going to be similar to what I would teach to my undergrads and grad students here on campus. Maybe the way we deliver it is different, and the background that they bring to the process is definitely different. You all have experience, you have jobs, you have real-time problems and questions to ask and solve. And so it's a different type of interaction, different types of teaching, and different type of learning. But the material remains the same.
If someone asked a question, I can answer. The session starts in September of 21, and it will go through the following September of 22. And again, each course is 69 days long. We have a couple of weeks in between, so you get a little breather. And I will have the schedule attached when we send out the recording of this to everybody who's attended. So that will be with you as well. But typically, it's a year-long program, and we just keep rolling each year.
I see a question. Will the course teach methods of sensory remotely? We're testing if your panelists are remote. And one of the things that I started last year was regular office hours. So every Tuesday at 10 a.m. we would just, whoever wanted to join can join. We would record the sessions. But during COVID, a lot of things happened, and so I did this presentation, Sensory in the Time of COVID, because how do you execute and how do you do those things remotely? And I think we've learned a tremendous amount. And some of those topics we share experiences, share successes, share things that didn't work so well. What did we learn, and what kinds of things are we able to do remotely? Which versus what things don't work so well remotely, and then how do you work around those things? So we definitely cover all those topics and more. Just how we're adapting and how we're building out different types of programs. So yes, we would definitely cover that.
There's a question about the percentage of the program that is asynchronous. I guess theoretically 100%, because even for the things that are held live, like office hours or some guest lectures or chats, everything is recorded. So you have access to that information if you're not able to attend an office hour at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time. So you have access to all the materials. You're never going to miss anything.
The question is the course offered remotely? Can I do the course outside of the US? Those are, Josie, did you answer? I mean, those are absolutely yes. Everything is done over the web. So it's all remote. You can access it anytime, day or night. As long as your internet's working, right?
Lorna asked in the chat, will there be group projects, or will we always complete assignments projects alone?
Well, we don't have group projects in that I mean, we haven't had until now. That doesn't mean that we couldn't. But I would say that a lot of those individual assignments, there is definitely some interaction that takes place among participants on the forum where everyone is going to help each other or ask each other questions. So I think there is definitely a sense of community as opposed to team projects. But Kelly, do you want to comment on that?
I was going to say, there's not so much group projects, but there's group conversation consistently. Like the thing is, you're working with the whole class is a group of your peers. And every day, every assignment, we are all within our personal lives, exercising the material as we're learning new material. So you have your classmates there for almost every assignment that you're applying yourself to. And I think even it transferred over to like a LinkedIn group where I still talk to most of the students that I was in that class with. So it's a group atmosphere the whole time. Most of the information you take in at your own pace, because when I was in the class, there's reading material, there's video components, and there was also exercises to do. But the entire course, you guys are in full dialogue the whole time. There's a section of the course that's just a chat where you guys can ask questions. And the great thing is that the assistants are always available for any questions you have on any of the work. Like there's never a problem that I had as far as getting a response on anything that I didn't understand or some assistance to move forward.
Well, you brought up a good point too about there's a LinkedIn group, and we've got about 1,000 people in that group. And one of the things I wanted to start that because when I was a young student at Davis, Rosemary Pangborn her whole thing was about networking, making sure that you know other people in the field that you can go to with questions or have similar issues, and really develop this family of a support group in a sense. So that, how do we do that with this program? And so when you're in the course, you certainly get to know the other students, but as you grow out of the program and you graduate from the program, we did set that up. So it's really just alumni from the program to get together. And, when we were able to meet in person, we do offer every once in a while, we'll go to a conference like Eurosense or SSP or the Pangborn conference and host a luncheon for UCD alumni of this program, because we're all virtual, and it's nice to be able to get together sometimes and, kind of share and see how it's grown and see how, looking back on the program, how has it helped your career? And we always get such great positive feedback from those types of meetings that we enjoy that.
I just saw a question in the chat on the average class size for each of the programs. So we started 20 years ago, and it's fluctuated between 20 and all the way to 50 plus or slightly over 50. Yeah. So and this year, because of the pandemic, it was a bit less. It was like 35, but I would say expect anywhere from 30 to 60 students or in the program.
There's a question about how hands-on is the program and are we sent materials to sample and evaluate? We do for course 1. We send out a little test kit in the beginning because it really gets that hands-on, some interactive types of things, and it takes you through about 4 lessons where we have you do different activities and report on those activities, and it's sort of some tricks and tips that we use to fool the senses in a way. But that's been a nice hands-on activity that we just kind of kick the program off with.
Found another question I can answer. What is the overall tuition? Each course is $2,200, and there is a certificate fee that is non-refundable of $125. Again, we can work with you through payment plans, and we try to be really flexible. We recognize it's a substantial investment, but it's a worthwhile investment in yourself.
There's a question on the approximate time you have to spend on the program, and that's a matter of debate. And maybe, Kelly, do you want to answer that before I?
Yeah, let a student know.
I'd say that it's definitely manageable around a full-time working schedule with discipline. I think for me, I would read most of the material in the morning before work and then try to like work on the experiments and talk to my classmates in the afternoon. It's if you can dedicate maybe 2 hours a day, 6 days a week, that's 12 hours. That definitely no problem with the course if you have that level of dedication. And I see some people in here asking about like, will we gain skills towards building a sensory lab or being able to run sensory experiments? Like right now, I privately work as a consultant for several chocolate and coffee companies with testing methods that I learned directly from the course. So you're able to work in an independent fashion as well as, present it as a package deal for major companies as well.
Sorry, Kelly. My would be about anywhere from 3 to 10 hours a week, depending on the topic for that week.
Yeah, well, and I think we also do try to expose you to, how big this field is, and some of the international conferences, a lot of the literature that's out there, books that are written on the topic, conferences, and just, if you want to get involved, there are certainly ways to get involved in this field and, hear more about how it's applied, like like we mentioned, the Pangborn Conference, the Society of Sensory Professionals, Eurosense, AsiaSense. There are lots of different ways, lots of different avenues that you can continue your learning.
There's some questions about, do these courses apply towards the degree program?
Yeah, typically that depends on what your university is willing to accept. These are graduate academic units, and you will receive 16 academic units, and they are at a graduate professional level. So whether or not your institution will accept these, we can't guarantee that this is a program that is judged by campus and deemed appropriate, and we have to go through a renewal process with them as well, and it is kept to the high academic standards.
There's a question about how the program differs from a degree in sensory science. I mean, if you wanted to get a university bachelor's or graduate degree, then that would be something slightly different. I mean, this is professional and continuing education certificate. So it's something different from a BS, BA, or master's or PhD, obviously. But a lot of the contents are similar. But if you wanted to get a master's, you would at UC Davis or any other university, you would need to apply their graduate program and indicate that you're interested in the sensory and consumer science area specifically. And then you would take typically 2 years to get your master's degree, or maybe 3, 4, or even 5 to get a PhD if you really wanted to explore further. So that really depends on your professional objectives. But suffice it to say, if you're working in this, and I think we also forget to make the point that this goes way beyond food and beverage. This is a course about consumer products and services and the application, sensory and consumer science for those types of products and services. But it depends on your objectives, but everything you learn in this certificate program is going to be highly applicable, and you're going to become highly knowledgeable, highly confident, and also you're going to find yourself advocating for sensory and consumer methods in your jobs.
One of the topics that I've been involved in over the years is a certification program for sensory science. There's been a lot of talk at ASTM and Society of Sensory Professionals, and even in Pangborn. How do we create a certification for sensory scientists, right? And so that's a big ask, but they were looking at our program to help set those standards for what people should learn. So, we felt very confident that if a certification program becomes available, that if you take our program, that you would have 99% of the material you would need to pass that certification. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but that was, it's been a discussion off and on for the last 15 years.
Was anybody able to answer Jim's question? It says, how can we get sensory help from UC Davis during tastings and to develop any product? Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, I saw that question. I mean, this is something that the types of services that we would provide as faculty members and / consultants outside the program, but we do provide a lot of suggestions or guidance or answer questions throughout the course with very practical and applied questions. And so I would say that yes, you will get some of that support or information from us, but also from your peers. That interaction with your peers is wonderful because you're facing a particular problem, a challenge, and somebody else in the course is bound to have done that before or gone through that before. So I would say you do get some consulting advice if that's what you want, problem solving advice from us and from your peers. And then if you need something much more in depth, that there is always an opportunity for us to help you or to recommend people or agencies that could help you. And then, Becky Blybaum is in the business of when she's not doing this, that's what she does. So
we apply these tools all over the place. That's what I'm saying. What are people paying for during COVID? What kinds of issues are so important they need sensory data for? And, like I said, I used to work for major multinationals most of my career. We started our own company in 2017 for these very things. How do we bring these fantastic tools down to a level for smaller companies to really embrace the science behind sensory? Just some things that you can do to make your data more robust, more repeatable, reliable, and as you make big business decisions, how you're relying on that evidence to make a decision. So we spend a lot of time working with smaller and large companies on these very issues. Dragonflysci.net.
I see another question. Arturo asked, at the end of the course, will I have the knowledge to set up tasting panels?
You'll be doing it during the course. But well, no, it's honestly like, I mean, I even started out in the field with like a laid out set. Like I started in coffee where they kind of have the SCA cupping format. And before I even finished this, like I had my own formats for more accurate data within the companies that I worked for the testing that they were looking for with products. And that's how hands-on this course is. It will make you so independent within the methods of procuring data and analyzing that data effectively. You won't need any assistance from anybody by the time you finish. It's like it's able to. I think the best thing to take away from this is it allows you to understand tools, analysis tools, and the consumer as a tool. A big part of this is that it is a consumer science program, and it teaches you how to utilize the consumer as the tool when analyzing things with sensory. So all of the testing methods are laid out. The independence in how to effectively choose a testing method, whether it's quantitative, qualitative, what type of data you're looking for, it goes into depth into that as far as what type of test applied to what answers you're even looking for.
I think that's a big thing is like, what's your objective? What are you trying, not just do a panel, but what are you trying to learn? And, you know, we always say, what are you trying to measure and how do you measure it to get some data that you can make a decision on? So, yeah, we definitely try to leave you with that, some real practical things to apply.
There's a question about descriptive analysis, and that's definitely it's probably the biggest piece of course 2. So we, in addition to discrimination testing within sensory evaluation methods, we spend a lot of time on descriptive analysis methods, the traditional ones that have been around for a long time, and then some of the new, faster alternatives to those methods. So yes, definitely a big topic for us. There's a question again that was asked earlier, can I take only one session instead of 4 different sessions? And the answer is no. You really need the full complement of the 4 courses, but you can pause as long as you stay in sequence. You start with the first one and ideally finish in a year, but a few people have paused and then resumed to finish later on.
Correct. Yeah, for various reasons. Family, we've had many children born throughout our program, and it's been wonderful to, you know, share that part of their lives too. So we've had people who've taken course 1 and 2 in one cycle, and then 3 and 4 in the next. And I've had one person who was only allowed to take 1 course a year from her company, so it took her a little bit longer to get through. But again, if you take them in sequence, and then it is sort of one at a time.
Yeah, because it's really built, they build on each other, right? We really expect you to, you know, take that foundation and then go into the sensory methods and then go into consumer, and then how do you apply it? So I think we put a lot of time into just designing it as a complete program.
Right.
And there's a question about the timing. It's a sequence of 4 courses which overlap with the 4 seasons. So the first course number 1 is offered in the fall, course number 2 in the winter, and I'm talking about California time, Northern Hemisphere, sorry. And course number 3 in the spring. Right now we're 2 weeks away from 3 weeks away from finishing course 3, and then course number 4 over the summer. So that's how and each course is 10 weeks in length. And I think, Trucy, you pay your tuition before each of the courses, right? You don't pay tuition up front for the entire program.
Unless your company wants to. It depends. Again, I work that out with each individual. Some companies have, they want to pay for 2 of the courses in 1 calendar year and then the rest of the courses in the other calendar year. Some people are on the same fiscal year that we are. Again, we try to design it according to your personal needs and what your company needs and offer flexibility within that. Again, the only firm and steadfast thing is that we want the whole thing paid for before you get your certificate. And unfortunately, during COVID, there was one student last year. She was in Argentina, and the country of Argentina had held up payments to foreign entities. And so she couldn't get her payment. All the request was in, and then it took a couple of months, and then they finally got it through and approved, because the government had to approve all of these things too. So again, we try to work with you, and she received her certificate, and she was quite excited. So again, we stay on top of these things. I am, as Keelan knows, I often call myself professional nag. I try to keep you on track. I look and see if you are on target, and if you're not, I'll reach out to you and say, hey, what's going on? And this way we can try to meet your needs too. If you are having something going on at work and you have a huge project and you're unable to, hit the targets, you just let us know. Communication is key between me, the administrator, and with your instructors, so that we can keep you flowing and moving forward. Our goal is that you succeed.
Right, right. We want you to succeed, and just communicate with us. I mean, I think that's the best thing. If you're falling behind or there's anything coming up, just let us know, and we work with you the best we can.
I'm gonna say, Trucy's definitely made it very convenient to just, like they said, just communicate and work out what's best for you to get through the program, and extremely supportive.
Yeah, that's my goal. Eugene, I see that you're don't know how to reach out to your company. I'm gonna type my email in there, and that's also in the slides for later. You can reach out to me and I can help you do that. And maybe we can convince them to pay for everything for you.
There is a question about materials such as books. We provide everything that you need. As Trucy said, there will be a reader available.
Right.
Each course, but most of the materials are delivered as again as animated PowerPoint slides with voiceover, recording, and transcription. And then you also get the PDFs of those presentations. So you don't need to buy any books or to look up any books or any articles.
The course reader is the only thing you'll need to purchase outside of tuition. And that again ranges per course anywhere between $100 and $150. It just depends on how many articles there are. And this is the least expensive way to afford copyrights, which is something that has to happen. So,
well, we also, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
we also offer the ASTM
right.
documents, right? And those are relatively expensive, but through Davis, we can just get whatever documents you want, which, they have all sorts of testing methods and a very popular ad claims document that a lot of companies use to design research. And yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah. Oh, Nicole, I'm happy to help you too. I am familiar with J-Lord Vineyards. They have been part of UC Davis for a really long time.
There's a sensory theater.
Yeah.
They are one of the contributors to the Robert Mondavi Institute for Wine and Food Science, where we're located here.
Yeah.
The sensory theater was not funded by JLO, but they're one of the strongest supporters of the college and the two departments. So I'm sure they would be very supportive of you taking this program.
The UCD library online resources, unfortunately, we do not get access to that through our division. You have to be on campus and in person in order to have access to all the libraries. All right.
Great.
Is there any other questions? If not, I think we wrap this up in an hour just on the dot. Well done, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. This has been recorded. We will send it to the editor to take out all my foibles. And then we will send it out to you. And again, feel free to email me. I am so happy to help you with anything. But my favorite part of the job is that I wish all my problems were this easy to solve. So feel free, ask me anything and I'll do my best to get you an answer. Thank you so much for coming. And
Thank you. We hope to see you guys.
And
Thank you all.
Gina Xavier and Becky, always good to see both of you. Thank you very much, everyone.